Dorsey Jackson Global.
It has begun.
My name is Tara. I live in a small town in Wichita. I'm your normal, average teenage girl. I love everything that teenagers do. Hanging out, going to the mall, chilling with friends, trying new food, doing absolutely nothing. But most importantly, I am serious about the books. I'm all about my grades and take education very seriously. I wouldn't say that I'm a nerd, although I am. I'm not your typical nerd, or shall we say stereotypical nerd. I'm still considered cool by my peers, but I just enjoy learning. I truly do. I get off on learning new and fascinating knowledge. Doesn't really matter what it is. It can be relevant to what I'm doing now, or just a small tidbit of trivia that has absolutely nothing to do with anything. I just love learning. I'm like a walking encyclopedia, thesaurus, dictionary, and talk show all in one. My friends affectionately call me Google. Amongst other things, one of my favorite hobbies is magic. Yep, I do magic. Not anything spectacular, just cool sleight of hand, entertaining type stuff. I call myself an amateur magician and know enough tricks to back it up. It was my junior year and I was ramping up for mid-semester exams. My best friend's name is Holly, and we do everything together. She's just cool. There's nothing to not like about Holly. She's pretty, funny, happy all the time. Her personality just glows. She's very inviting, friendly to everyone, sincere, sweet, caring, loving, and generous. Like I said, there's nothing not to like about her. We were hanging out at my place, studying, when we decided to take a break and just head downtown for a good teenage time before coming back and getting ready for an annual party. "Are you ready for the party tonight?" she said in a weird announcer-like voice. "Let's get ready to party!" I returned. We laughed. "I can't wait for this year's Friday the 13th party. They're always such fun," I exclaimed. "Yeah, they are, and they're the only time of year I drink," Holly said. "Well, you should do it more often. It's more fun than you would think," I returned. "You're talking like you're a lush." "No, I'm not a lush, but I never turn down a drink during a good time," I admitted. "Huh, who would think? As smart as you are, I would think everyone would see me as the big party-going drinker," Holly admitted. I would agree, bud. I had to admit it was true, but we were who we were, and we were happy with that. "Mason's gonna be there," Holly teased. "Yes, I know this, Holly, and that's one of the reasons why I'll be there." Mason was a guy at school that I really enjoyed talking to. Yeah, I was sweet on him, but never really wanted to pursue anything. I just enjoyed his company and, damn, I just loved looking at him. "Why don't you ever try to pursue him?" Holly asked me. "Nah, he's not for that. He's one of those guys that's just, well, he's damn good eye candy." "But Tara, come on, he's a great guy. He's a sweetheart." "Yes, all this is true, but, just trying to pursue anything other than what it is would just mess everything up, you know what I mean? I'd rather just keep everything the way it is and be cool with Mason, and Mason will be cool with me. You know what I mean? You get it." I tried to explain to my friend Holly, but her facial expression, well, "No, Tara, I don't get it, but as long as you do, sweetheart." Holly teased me some more. I laughed and threw a pillow at her. We headed out and decided to go to our favorite sandwich shop. We were walking up Sampson Street when up ahead, we saw a little makeshift vendor stand. It was rickety, made of all wood, and looked like it was quickly and shabbily put together. It looked old, and in this modern-day hustle and bustle, it really looked out of place. Holly saw it too. "Wow, what the heck is that?" she said lightly. Behind the makeshift stand stood an old lady. Her clothes looked really tattered and abused. Old like they had seen many, many years. Upon her head, she wore a funny-looking pointy hat. As we approached, something about her standing there just made me shudder. Holly, being a free-spirited person she was, didn't seem to be really bothered by it, so I just brushed off the feeling. As we were passing, Holly, in her usual form, decided to engage the woman in her genuine, happy, friendly, inviting sprite tone. "Hello," she said, and we continued walking by. "A penny for your thoughts." We heard a haggled, aged voice call out to us from behind. "I'm sorry, what? Are you talking to us?" Holly questioned with a smile.
Yes, I am. A penny for your thoughts,"
the lady repeated. We looked up at the wooden sign above the lady's head. It had 1 cent painted on it, kind of scribbly. "Are you really offering a penny for our thoughts?" Holly asked. I just wanted to keep going.
Yes, I am. A penny for your thoughts. It's an old saying that I at some point found to have more merit than people give it. A penny for your thoughts,"
she explained. As the woman turned and looked at me, I felt just nasty. The lady in her rickety stand and the aura around her just made me feel... Well, I'd tell you for free. I don't think my thoughts are worth that much, but sure, I'll buy, Holly said.
"Exciting,"
the lady said.
"Thank you for entertaining a young woman,"
she said, joking the words, young woman. Holly giggled girlishly at the woman's feign. Feeling the way I was, I could only manage a crooked-mouthed snicker as I stood there with my arms folded. The lady reached down on the table and with a finger began to contemplate over the pennies.
This one."
She picked up a penny and extended it towards Holly. Holly joyfully began to reach out an open palm hand.
"The only thing is, there are no refunds,"
the lady said as she coyfully recoiled back. "Oh, it's just a thought. I'm sure I'll live without it," Holly said.
"You would think, wouldn't you?"
The lady dropped the penny in Holly's hand. "We pass this way every day. I've never seen you on this corner."
"Oh, I only buy once a year."
"So, what do you want to know?"
"Oh, I want to know everything. In due time, though."
The lady considered another penny, then picked it up. Then she turned her eyes on me.
"How about you, young lady? You look like you always have a lot on your mind. A penny for your thoughts?"
The lady extended a shriveled hand, 2 gnarly fingers pinching a penny towards me. No thanks. I don't need the money." "Come on, Tara, take part. It's only a penny." I stood there just nervous about the whole interaction, but the lady's wolf-sheep smile and eyes stayed on me like they were ready to burn into me. "Nah, I'm cool. I don't want to play." "Don't worry, I'll take one for her, and I'll share 2 things," Holly said and excitedly extended her hand forward again.
"No, it has to be her own thoughts,"
the lady hissed.
"Come on, Tara. Like your friend said, it's only a penny. What could it hurt?"
I didn't particularly like the way she said my name.
"What's in a penny?"
the lady repeated. I didn't want to, but I was tired of playing this game and just wanted to move on from this entire creepy scene. I reluctantly gave in. "Okay, fine. Give me the penny, sure, why not?" I said, irritated.
"That's the spirit,"
the witch said and dropped the penny in my hand, then began back over to looking over her pennies like we weren't there. "So?" Holly said. The lady looked up.
"So what?"
"You've given us your penny. What do you want our thoughts on? After all, we can't take any free handouts."
"Oh,
the lady said as if surprised. She looked around, then turned her head up towards her sign.
What do you think of my setup?"
she asked as she waved her arms around the wood. Holly giggled. "I think it's nice." "Well, I could probably give you a few pointers," I said.
"You probably think you could, huh?"
the lady said.
"Well, you ladies' debt has been paid. Thank you again."
"You're welcome," Holly said. "Yeah, you're welcome," I said.
"Ta-ta for now,"
the lady said, and then went back to admiring her pennies. We walked away, and I still felt just as creeped out. We got our sandwiches, returned home to eat them, then got ready for the party. We arrived about 8:30, and the party was in full swing. We stood there enjoying the party when Holly turned to me. "I'll be back. I'm going to get a drink." "I'm already 3 cups in. You're just starting on 1?" I asked. "Yeah, I like to take my time. I told you, this is the only time of year I drink. I'm not trying to be face down at the end of the night." "Me either, but it'll take more than 3 drinks. For you, the experienced one. I'm going to get my drink now, if that's okay, Sifu," Holly said as she walked away laughing. "Ha ha," I called out. When I turned back to face the party, there he was. He was still gorgeous as always. I saw him heading my way. I couldn't wait to talk to him. But what was his name? He walked up to me. "Hey, Tara, enjoying the party?" "Yeah, I am," I said, sounding slightly confused. "Are you sure? You don't sound too confident," he said, giggling. "I'm positive. What about you?" I quickly changed my demeanor. "Yeah, of course. You know I am. I never turn down a good party." "So I've heard. You ready for the big test tomorrow?" I asked him. "Yeah, I think I'll be okay. I'm not even going to ask you because I know you'll be ready as smart as you are, Google." "You want to dance?" he asked. "Sure, of course." We headed towards the dance floor, found some space, and began to dance. I was looking forward to this the whole night. I was really enjoying him, but standing there in front of me, I forgot his name. I tried too hard, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. I knew I should know it, but for the life of me, I couldn't remember. The night continued on, and I eventually found myself sitting outside, feeling confused. "Hey, Google, what are you doing out here? The party's inside. Are you not feeling well?" I heard Holly's voice call out to me. "No, Holly, I'm not feeling well. I think I'm going to head... This was odd. The word escaped my mind. A simple word I used every day. Where are you going to head?" "Come on, Tara, spit it out," Holly said. "You know, that place where I go every day and lay my head and keep all my stuff." Holly looked at me weirdly. "You mean home, Tara?" "Yeah, that place home," I confirmed. "Looks like you had one too many. Well, Tara, you must really be tipsy." Yeah, that must be it. Either way, I'm headed home. Not feeling well. "Well, you head on home. I'm going back in." Holly paused as if contemplating, staring at the door. I'm going back in there. You go home and you get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow. Love you, my friend." "Love you too, my friend." I headed home. Once I got there, I began my usual nightly ritual. I took a shower, read from a book, and the one thing I do every day without fail, I wrote in my journal. I journaled our exploits for the day. After that, I went to sleep. The next day, I got up and headed for school. It started like any other school day. I sat down to take my test. The teacher usually gives us an hour for the test, but I usually finish early. I began the routine task of getting a good grade. It was going well at first. The answers were coming to me quickly, and I was zipping them down on paper like elementary. But halfway through the test, a mental fog began to set in. The questions were there, but the answers weren't coming anymore. This was all simple stuff, but the harder I tried, the less I could figure them out. Every other question was a blank to me. I hobbled through the rest of the test, and when I looked up, I was the only one in class, save the teacher. I looked at the clock, and it was half an hour past regular scheduled class time. Miss Parker looked at me curiously as I walked up to hand her my paper. "It was obvious you needed more time, so I didn't want to bother you," she said. "Thank you," I eked out. "You're typically the first one to finish tests. Is everything okay, Tara?" "Yeah, everything's fine. At least it will be," I said, then hurriedly walked out of class in embarrassment. The rest of the day walking through the school halls was like walking through a funhouse at an amusement park. Faces, people, and things I should know just looked foreign and scary to me. Over the next week, I began to forget simple things, simple words. I would forget how to do things I'd done since I was a kid. I watched Jeopardy, which I used to whiz through, and none of the answers came to me. Those people I live with, the tall, older versions of me. I remember the woman's name was Mary, but the guy, I couldn't remember what his name was or what his place was in my life. I would stare at those square things that hung on the walls with images of us on it for long periods of time, trying to recall. And I would see that guy I should know, that guy who's taken care of me my whole life. I know I should know him, but I can't recall what I call him or what his name is. I would go downstairs into the kitchen and get stuff out of that thing that's cold, long, and rectangular. It makes ice and hold all the stuff I eat. What is it called? I began to forget everything. I felt my memories fading away. This was the most devastating thing to experience. Me, Google. When I didn't show up to school for 2 days straight, Holly came to check on me. I met her outside my place where I go every day and lay my head and keep my stuff where those 2 people I live with are. Holly wasn't looking too hot either. I just asked her straight out, "Holly, have you been beginning to sense or feel anything weird?" With the horrid look on Holly's face, I could tell that she had. "Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but..." "You can't remember anything. You're starting to forget simple stuff, right?" I finished for her. Holly just buried her face in her hands and cried. I pulled her into a hug. "It's okay. I'll figure this all out." That night, as I laid in that soft thing that I fall asleep on, I began to try to recall when this all first began. I tried to think back, but that was hard because, well, it required me to remember, and that was the problem. But I tried and I tried. Here and there, bits and pieces started to appear in my mind of things that I could recall, and I tried to tie them all together, but I could get nowhere. Over the next few days, I continued, but again, I got nowhere. Then one day, as I was in my room trying to figure it out, I remembered my diary. I began reading it, started reading it backwards, starting from the day I was on and going back trying to piece things together. Luckily for me, it was working. I was starting to see all the stuff that I was forgetting, and I jotted it down, all the different things I did, and finally, I came to that day. That day me and Holly met that old woman at the makeshift vendor stand.
"A penny for your thoughts,"
I remembered her saying as I read it off the page. That was the day I first started to forget things. I thought about everything that woman said. I remember her saying that she only sold once a year. What was so special about that day? I looked up at the calendar. I calculated how many weeks had gone by, and then I counted back to that day. That would have made that day Friday, May 13th. Friday the 13th. That witch. Of course she would have found that day special. A day she could conjure her special powers. The next day, I went back to that corner looking for that woman, that witch, that bitch. She wasn't there, nor was her stand. But I wasn't giving up. I began relentlessly looking, searching, hunting for this woman. Although my thoughts were slipping away, I knew I was still smart enough to figure this all out. After all, I was Google. I began asking around the city about this weird-looking woman, if anyone had ever seen her. Surprisingly, I did end up talking to people who were familiar with who I was speaking of. I ran into a young man. "You mean old hag Hazel?" "Yeah, she lives in a spooky-looking house up the hill on the other side of town." "Can you point me in her direction?" "Sure can." He gave me detailed directions to her house. I began writing everything down so that I would not forget, so that when I did start to forget, I could reference my notes every morning. The next day, I arrived at the bottom of the hill to her house, prepared. I made the long climb up the hill to the tattered, shabby wooden manor. I used the old-fashioned brass knocker on the door to knock 3 times. Eventually, the door creaked open, and there stood the old hag.
Oh, the smart one. What good fortune brings you to my door?
She said as she walked away, leaving the door open. I followed her in, furious, but fought back my anger. Well, since me and my friend spoke to you that day, strange things have been happening to us.
You don't say.
Yeah, and I think you know what I'm talking about.
You sure you know I know?
She said, taunting me. Yes!
Then by all means, share.
A penny for your thoughts. I said the phrase to her, it sounding more like an accusation.
Are you offering?
She said. Stop playing. You know what I'm talking about. You stole our thoughts.
I did nothing of the sort. I offered you money for fair exchange.
Fair exchange?
Well, I kept up my end of the bargain. It looks like you're keeping up yours.
I want my thoughts back, and my friends too, I demanded as I offered up the penny she gave with an outstretched hand. Here, take it. I'll give you your penny back. Is there any way we can get our thoughts back?
I'm sorry. There are no refunds. Or did you forget?
You witch! I screamed.
Oh, don't be so sore. I'm sure you can invest that money and make it into something.
I began to walk off, feeling defeated.
Well, there is one way,
she said. I turned back to face her.
I'll give you back your thoughts in exchange.
In exchange for what?
In exchange for a year of your life.
Are you insane? You want me to give up what?
It's either that or nothing.
I stood there and contemplated the offer. It was in no way fair, and this hag was taking advantage of me again, but I eventually gave in. Okay, I said as I extended a hand for another penny. She went to a table and mulled over a bunch of pennies sprawled on her desk.
Let's see. This one.
She picked up one and again came over to me and again began to stretch out an arm with 2 gnarly fingers pinching a penny. As I waited for her to drop the penny into my hand, she fang recoiled like she did last time with Holly.
The only thing is, you could always come back for more,
she said. Why would I want to come back for more? I asked indignantly.
Well, the thing is, you will only get your thoughts back for a year. For each year that I take from you.
This woman was wrong. She was taking full advantage of me, and she knew she would have me caught up in her little game. I stood there brooding for a few moments, furious, but eventually I did agree. I couldn't remember what or why, but something inside me told me I should, urged me that I could, that it was the right decision. I didn't know why, but I trusted that feeling. Okay, I said and stood there confidently with my arms stretched out. The woman dropped the little penny in my hand. I didn't know why, but I smiled.
Thank you for doing business with me,
the lady said, then began back over to her desk to mull over her pennies again like I wasn't there. This lady didn't know who she was fucking with. Because one thing I did remember real quickly is that my name is Google. I laid on my bed, happy that I could remember what it was, and looked over to the family picture on my wall of our house and smiled at the image of my father. At least I could remember things now. I wanted to go down to the refrigerator and grab some food, but I was feeling too low to eat. This whole thing had me feeling taken advantage of. I sat on my bed, half-heartedly practicing a magic trick with a card. As I flipped the card through my hand, I made it disappear and reappear. Disappear and reappear. Disappear. It hit me. I wasted no time. I grabbed my computer and began doing all the research I could. I began to study everything that had to do with black magic. This lady had to have learned her wicked craft at some point, and no one could outlearn me. I'm Google. I hit every library I could, every old bookstore and occult shop. I read everything I could. Then I found it. The spells that the woman used to make her little rules possible. Normally, it would take a lifetime for people to master these crafts that these books spoke of. But I'm no normal person. I think I said it enough. I don't think I need to tell you who I am. The day came, I went back to that witch's place. I banged on the door, fully confident this time. The witch answered the door like before and stepped aside to make way for me in.
Back for more,
she said as she turned her back and began inside, knowing I'd follow. Yes. Do you have more to give me?
No, the question is, do you have more to give? Do you still remember the terms of our deal?
She asked. Yes, of course. How can I forget? I have a year to remember. Remember?
Cute. Well,
she said as she mulled over pennies. She picked one up, held it in the air, and squinted at it.
I think this one will do,
she said, then headed back over my way. I reached my palm out. She began to stretch her arm out my way. Just as she was going to drop the penny, I feigned recoiled back. One thing, I said. She looked up, buying me time to begin my game. Before I take this penny, are you sure you want to give me that penny?
Well, what's wrong with this penny?
She asked as she looked down and realized she was staring at empty fingers.
What happened to my penny?
She began looking around on the ground.
Where did it go?
You mean this penny? I said. She looked up to find me holding a penny between my fingers.
How did you do that? That was pretty cute.
Do what? You mean this? And with a flickering of my fingers, the penny disappeared.
Nothing compared to what I can do. But, funny little girl.
Okay. I'm tired of playing games. I reached behind her ear and produced, guess what? You know it, a penny, and held it up in front of her. She scowled silently. I turned the penny downward as if to drop it into her hand and smiled. Okay, I'm ready. Come and get your year. The lady stretched out her palm as if to receive the penny. But before you do, I said, and as I did, the lady looked up and I released the penny. A penny for your thoughts, I said. With no time to react, the penny hit her hand.
Oh, it's much more to it than that,
she said. I know. During that brief time you gave me my thoughts back, I learned. I researched and I learned everything there is to know to do what I had to do here tonight. And you, having my thoughts, if you think hard enough, you can probably remember what they called me.
No. You thief! You charlatan!
She protested. Oh, don't be so sore about things. I'm sure you can invest it and make something of it, but I'd hurry 'cause soon your thoughts will be slipping away. She recoiled in painful fear. No sooner than I said that, images and clouds of this witch's memories began to float through my mind. Because there were so many, they began to reveal themselves a lot sooner than I began to lose my original thoughts. I began to see some of the people she bamboozled, the wicked things she's done over the generations. her retaliation on the town during the Salem witch trials, her learning the arts. So many wicked things. So many that I did not care to remember, and I never planned to anyway. But also, I could see my memories, because my memories had become hers. I took them back when I took all of her memories. I'm not like you. I'm not going to keep what's not mine as you have over the centuries. I'm going to give you back your thoughts in exchange for that year you took from me.
Yes, you can have it back. You can have it back.
I dropped the penny in her hand and began to leave as she fell to her knees groveling. Oh, and one more thing. I've given you all of your memories back, except the memory that you stole people's thoughts and years, and that you even knew how, so that you could never do this again to anybody. I left. I was pretty proud of myself. When I distracted her, I used a sleight of hand trick to steal her penny and dispose of it. In the meantime, I used a black magic crafted penny of my own to drop into her hand. I got all of my memories back. I found my friend Holly, who by this time was damn near a drooling child. Every day, I would sit with her and teach her what I had learned of the black arts to teach her how to get her memories back for good. In the meantime, she'll just have to make do with the year I bought her with the penny I got from Old Witch Hazel.
Narrated by Dorsey Jackson of Dorsey Jackson Global at Compound City. Be sure to like and subscribe.